Hey everybody, this is M.E. Thomas. I'm here with Ted. Ted, I'm going to ask you the same question I ask everybody. What is it like to be you?
Do you know what? I've been asked this before, and I'd have to say there was a time when, hang on, I've just got to get a notification off the screen. There you go. There was a time when I was in court on a criminal damage charge, and I know you've been on the other side of the fence, but I'm on the inside of the dock facing the judge. Do you know what I mean?
Hmm.
And the judge is doing his bit, talking. Prosecution's doing his bit, trying to put me away and all that. And I'm not really listening to either of them. Do you know what I mean? But I'm
Hmm.
just looking around. I was looking around at the plexiglass that's in front of you. I don't know what it's
Yeah.
like over the pond, but in here, like you are, you go up the wooden steps and it's like you're in a box. But I was looking around at the plexiglass. And I just thought to myself, I went, do you know? I went, this is sort of what it's like to be me all the time, but it's physically represent. Do you know what I mean?
Mm.
And then I never, this was when I was 19, so I just never thought about it again. But that's what I'd say it's like. It's like being in a glass box, sort of everywhere you go, or like looking through a bus window. Do you know what I mean?
You mean like you feel like there's like a barrier between you and the world or something? What do you mean by that?
Can't, yeah, like, yeah. I guess that's the best way of putting it. Yeah, it's hard to exactly nail down such a particular view. Do you know what I mean? But that
Yeah.
I'll always remember that, and yeah, that's the best way of putting it.
Hmm. Uh, and you were going to say something about this beeping?
Yes, all right. To the audience, you will hear a a consistent beeping throughout. That is the smoke alarm. It does have a battery in it. It's just broken, and it needs
Hmm.
fixing. So apologies in advance.
I think it's kind of hilarious that I bet like a lot of people listening will be like, I just could not zone that out. I would not be able to tune that out. Or there's some people that I would think are like super careful that would be like, I would be worried that there'd be a fire. And if it's broken, then I wouldn't know.
Well, I wouldn't worry. If there is a fire, I do have a little fire extinguisher that's good for, I
Okay.
think, nearly
So you're
like
safe. There's no problem.
yeah, if I wake up, I'll just put it out. Do you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
we're British. Do you know what I mean? We're tough.
Hmm.
We can handle it. But no,
Yeah.
I go to sleep every night, and I don't worry about it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
If I wake up the next day, I wake up the next day. It is what it is. Like I say with everything, it is what it is. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And in fact,
Is that
that's a term that. Sorry, were you going to say something?
No, I was just gonna say, is that what you always say? It is what it is?
Yeah, it is because it's a term used a lot by men, especially to
Mm.
hide their emotions. Like, if you think like your friend is upset and you go because his parents broke up with him, because his girlfriend's broke up with him, and he goes, "Oh, you all right?" And he'll go, "Oh, it is what it is," to hide the emotion he's feeling. I
Mm.
use it to hide the fact that I'm not feeling the emotion that I should. That makes sense. I just go, "Oh, it is what it is." It is, and because it's a socially accepted phrase, it no one's going to question it. It is what it is. It's circular, and so yeah, it is what it is.
It's interesting. I never this makes me wonder like gender differences with psychopaths because sometimes I thought that it's easier to hide if you're female for whatever reason, maybe because you don't have the testosterone kind of causing you to, like, behave in ways that are more noticeable, I guess, but in some ways, certain aspects of psychopathy, it seems like maybe it's easier to hide if you're male, especially, like, in a culture, for instance, where it is what it is like, "Oh, yeah, we don't expect you to" like, that's what's culturally acceptable, I guess, is for people to hide their
Yeah,
emotions. Yeah, that's interesting.
yeah, yeah. It is, but it's just my reasoning behind using the phrase is different than to
Mm,
the average neurotypical.
Mhm.
I guess you'd say. But that's just how I use it, and it's a good little. It works. Do you know what I mean? If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah. So, when you say, like, you are using it differently than the average neurotypical, do you kinda make a distinction between yourself then and the average neurotypical?
Yeah, definitely. So, I mean, a good point, mate. A good thing to start off with, or share it with the audience, would be
Mhm.
my. Are you familiar? This is how I started slowly finding out. Do you know Jordan Peterson, the psychiatrist?
Jordan Peterson, yeah, is he Canadian?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
And he has him and four other doctors. I have the names here somewhere. They excuse me, there we go, I've got it. They came up with this personality test, to measure the 5 traits of personality in a person. And at
Yes.
this stage in my life, there's the anagram ocean that it gets remembered by: openness, conscientiousness, extroversion, blah blah blah. And I
Uh-huh.
was like reevaluating my life, and so I sort of hit the reset button on life. Do you know what I mean? Changed everything about me, and I wanted to become self-aware. And I'd seen a lot of his, I like Jordan Peterson. He hits the nail on the head almost every time. And
Uh-huh.
saw this personality test of his, and I thought, that might be good. I might learn a thing or two about myself, especially because I've always been a bit of a different guy. And the results were they were very black and white, shall we say?
Uh-huh.
Which later on, in my own little digging, as you were going down this black hole of ASPD, I'd find out is very representative of someone with a psychopathic personality disorder. And I went, wow,
Really?
that's yeah. It typically we're very black and white, so we're either neutral or we're. I mean, this is a bit of a dramatized example. We're trying to strangle someone, or do you know what I mean? We're never really kind of just feeling, are we? Do you know what I mean?
Like,
And
tend to, like, act extreme, or what do you mean?
I'm very impulsive violently.
Okay.
Um, yeah, I, 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 some most of the time, to be honest, I can't control it. But I figured out that I can. But if I do, uh, I feel physically sick afterwards.
Oh,
And it'll drain me, and like I'll have to sit down, and I'll go, oh god. And even something happened in work once. Like, someone said something, they tried. It was someone who didn't have authority over me. He tried to exercise authority over me, and they said something to me in front of other people. And the first thing that I saw was this box cutter knife. And I honestly, the first thought in my head was just grab it and just ram it in the face. I was sweating bullets. Do you know what I mean? I just
yeah.
absolutely was sweating bullets. I was fighting it, and I fought it off. But I had to go out and like sit down because
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
the anger just drains me if I hold it in. So
Mhm.
it's much easier on myself to just let it out and smash something in. Or do you know what I mean? I have to just get it out, and like my hand is buggered. My hand that I'm
Yeah.
smoking with, it's absolutely buggered because of the nerves have been cut by glass and all sorts, brick wall over the years, and I can't raise. I think it's my little finger. I can't even raise it properly anymore.
Dang it. Yeah, I totally understand what you're saying. Like, I call this gray rage, and it's interesting because my girlfriend, sometimes she'll say things like, "I'm sorry, like, I need to just go to sleep because I went to the bank or I went to the shop and, I got gray rage, and now, like, I just can't do anything after it." It is,
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
really, like,
incapacitating.
yeah, yeah, it's like
What is it?
being suddenly
Incapacitating.
ill or something,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Exactly. You get it in your gut, and you go, oh, you know what I mean. You just start, and you've got no choice. It's either let it out and kick off, or suck it in, and then you feel like you're going to be sick afterwards for a minute or two, and then you just the tiredness comes. And someone in work after this incident, they saw me and they went, "God, you look like shit." And I was like, "Yeah, I'm feeling it, mate. Cheers." But yeah, these personality test results for intellect, I'm in the 41st percentile. Withdrawal, the 31st percentile. extroversion, the 57th percent. But openness, I'm in the 10th percentile. Which,
Interesting.
yeah, I'd like to dig more into that maybe, but politeness, 0th percentile. So your rules are just that they don't exist to me really. Like I have my rules, and I mean now being a Christian as well, I have a moral code to
Huh.
oblige by. I have God's rules as well, but in the human realm, I guess you'd say, the human realm of endeavor, your rules don't know. It's my rules. It's my way. There isn't even my way or the highway. It is just my way. But the
Uh-huh.
0th percentile, compassion, the 2nd percentile, which in my paper I said even that's too high because I've never been known to show compassion. I don't think I've ever really felt it, or at least not from when I was like a little kid.
Well, when they
Um,
get so low, I think sometimes it's like statistical error can kind of swallow up.
yeah. But neuroticism, the 84th percentile, and normally that's linked with fear. And I went, do you know what? I'm paranoid. I'm
Mm,
paranoid about people, and in conversation, I'm always looking for like, is he insulting me? And I think that a lot of that comes from when I was bullied when I was younger, and
mm.
bullying in my childhood. It didn't fade out. It got worse and worse and worse and worse right to the end.
Huh.
And so now I'm extremely paranoid of people. I'm like, you know what I mean? Is he insulting me, or is he trying to have a go? And yeah, industriousness, 96th percentile. I do, I like working hard. Do you know what I mean? I'm not lazy. And
Uh-huh.
enthusiasm, the 3rd percentile. And those are,
These are funny extremes.
yeah, exactly. I'm like, what, you know what? I'm like 0 for this, and then I'm an 84 for that. And and what I started with, I just Googled the traits. I just Googled, low politeness, low compassion, high industriousness. I'm sure volatility was one as well. High volatility, and this thing called ASPD kept coming up, and what's that? Antisocial personality disorder. Never heard of it before. And I went, oh, maybe that just means I don't integrate with people well, which, okay, it is, but not in the, and then I look up ASPD, and it comes up with, this is the clinical term for sociopathy and psychopathy. And I went, what? Do you know what I mean? And again, with condition, especially cluster B disorders, your head immediately goes to what you've seen on TV, and then the media and other media's influence you to think about, these big things. And I went, oh, I'm not a murderer. You know what I mean? I'm not some kind of serial rapist. I just, I always say I'm a normal guy, but the more I've said that to myself over the years, the more ridiculous it sounded. So I
Yeah.
went, "Oh, right, okay." You know, I think I watched an interview. I thought I'll watch an interview with a diagnosed psychopath or sociopath. And the first one I watched was quite a well-known one on YouTube, which you can watch. A young black lad called Deshaun, I think. Do you know
Mhm.
the one I'm on about?
I think I have seen it, not seen the, video itself, but, like, seen thumbnails or something.
Yeah. He's very self-aware, and I thought, well, I'll do a test just to see if there's any similarities. And so the interviewer, I played it on the TV here, and the interviewer asked the question, and then I paused it, thought of an answer, and I let the sociopath do his answer, and my answers and the diagnosed sociopath's answers were the same every time. I
Mm.
mean, even sometimes verbatim. You just couldn't. I sort of sat here like stunned, and I went, I mean, what are the odds of that? And and then I started digging into it, and I asked my baby's mother. I said, "Hey," I said, I've done this test, and I said, I sent her the results, and she went, "Oh yeah, that's you." She went, "That's you, that's you." She went, "That's right, that." And she went, "Yeah, you really are horrible sometimes. You really are a piece of work when you want to be, and like I've never heard you say sorry." And I went, "Yeah." I said, "Well, because my baby's mother knows me better than anyone. We lived together for 3 years, so I've seen her and all her ups and downs, and like when her dog died, that just annoyed me, if I'm honest with you. You know what I mean? Like I've got to deal with it. Do you know what I mean?
Mhm.
And and I asked her. I said, I said, what do you think? I said, what if I was to tell you that there's a chance that I might be a sociopath or a psychopath, however you want to word it? And she went, it wouldn't shock me one bit, Ted. And I went, yeah. And well, my first instinct was, she's wrong, or she's full, she's full of it. And then I went to my dad. It was because by this point I sent her the interview as well that I watched with the guy. I said, look at this. And I said, what do you think of this? And she said, honestly, watching it, I just thought of you the whole time. And she said, you should really go to your doctor and get booked in. She said, this actually is kind of serious. I went,
Uh-huh.
I went, okay. And I honestly thought it was just a bit of like getting to learn about myself. And I thought, well, maybe I have some of the traits. And, so I got booked in with my GP. He referred me to a hospital for a psychological, or a series of psychological evaluations. And I remember the day before my first appointment at the hospital, I was at my dad's flat. And I said to him, he said, have you got anything going on? And I said, well, I said, I've got the hospital tomorrow. And he went, oh, why? Is something wrong? And I went, well, look, I said, I'm not dying. I haven't found a lump anywhere. But I said to him, I said, I've been doing some digging into myself. I said, I think I might be a psychopath. I said, there's this thing called ASPD. And the more I look into it, the more I see myself. And, Kirsty said a couple of things. And my dad, he looked at me for 1 second and he didn't say a word. And then he said, it doesn't shock me one bit. I said, I've looked at this before. He said, I've already thought this and I've looked into it. And he said, you do have like a lot of the trick. And I went, damn, well, he's doing my homework before me. And, you know what I mean? And he said he did this years ago when I was about 16, maybe. Like when I was an adolescent, I think is the correct term. But yeah, so I went, okay. And months down the line, I think I had 2 appointments. And after the first appointment, it was kind of weird because I don't know if you know the state of the medical system in this country, but they always blame COVID, but I just think it's partly down to government's, the irresponsibility of it all. And there's such a backlog with everything. So,
Mm.
unless you're really urgent, like my GP said, or this guy needs to be seen right away,
Uh-huh.
um, you have to wait months for even a follow-up appointment. So I think I waited about a month after my first appointment, and I rang up the hospital. I said, "Look, I said I was in like 3 or 4 weeks ago, and I
Mm.
haven't even had a letter." And so the receptionist goes, "Oh well, let me just check the system and see what it says." And she goes, "Right." She goes, you had an appointment with such and such nurse." I went, "Yeah, yeah, yeah." And he goes, "Oh well, it says here on the system, then, Mr. Ted, that it says that she's brought her notes to her boss because it's a team of nurses with a head doctor. So the
Uh-huh.
nurses see me. She's, got it done her homework, taken her notes. She says she's brought the notes to her boss, and then her boss has seen the notes and felt the need to contact another doctor in another practice to discuss me. And I'm like, what did I say? But I must have said something, you know what I mean? I must be interested in some way. And I still don't know exactly what it was to this day, but she said she's going to have a meeting with this doctor. So there's going to be a few of them about you, it says here. And I was like, bloody hell, do you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
so then I had one more appointment with the doctor, with the head honcho.
Uh-huh.
And she asked me about like, this was more like family life, growing up as a kid and blah, blah, blah. And, and then this, my memory's terrible. Ever since I've quit, I used to smoke cannabis a lot, and it's affected my memory. I'm clean now, but
Uh-huh.
remembering things is such a battle. And I'd say about maybe 3 months ago, or 2.5 months ago, it was. I had my last appointment, and then a few weeks later, I got a phone call off a withheld number, and so I answer it, and I go hello, and they go, "Hi, it's just Ted." I go, well, "Yeah, who's this?" Do you know what I mean? And And she goes, "Oh, it's Doctor So and So," and she said, we've talked about, yeah, because they had to have the first meeting before my second appointment, and then the head honcho doctors had a second appointment with me, and then she's gone and had another meeting with more doctors and nurses, and said we're going to confer about you.
Mm.
Said we've conferred about you, and
Mhm.
with all the notes, and she said when we did notice, she said we noticed that you're slightly autistic, and
Mm.
I said it's been raised before, and I said it doesn't, I'm not like non-verbal or anything like that, obviously. Yeah, it doesn't really affect me at all. It's just what
Uh-huh.
most people are, I find. But she said you were, because I wrote my paper self-diagnosing myself after my second appointment, and then I did one copy for me, which I've got here, and one copy for the nurses. Because I just thought to myself, do you know what? They're taking too long. I'm just going to
Oh.
self-diagnose myself and just give it to them. And
Uh-huh.
it's just like looking back is like the most narcissistic thing you could do to the doctor.
Uh-huh.
Go, do you know what? I'm just going to do your job for you. To be honest, let's let me know when you're ready. And which basically my attitude was, because I don't like waiting for things. Do you know what I mean? I'm like, let's get
Yeah.
it done now. Do you know what I mean? And
Mhm.
she said we read your paper, and like everything you said in it was correct. It was right. And so I was like, she said, yeah. And she didn't even say to me, oh, like, oh, you got this wrong. She said everything in your paper was correct. And she said, and we did notice there's 7 diagnostic traits in the NHS criteria. I'm not
Mm.
sure about the American, but I looked at the NHS and I referenced it, and I said,
Mhm.
I've got these traits and I'm sure I do. And she said, no, we noticed them all as well, and we've referred you to the diagnostic team to
Mm.
receive an official diagnosis. And she
Yeah.
said, we did that, but they've rejected it because you've said that you don't want any cognitive behavioral therapy, which I
Oh.
don't need it. Because they asked me this in my first appointment. They said, "Oh, do you want CBT or there's another therapy I think called MBT or something like that." It's like in
DBT
group.
maybe. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
MBT.
like a group therapy where you learn how to
Yeah.
be nice. And I
Uh-huh.
thought, oh, I don't need that. You know what I mean? Do you know what I mean? So so because I've said that I don't need their therapy, they're not just. She said they're not going to diagnose you if you're not going to do
Wow.
anything with the diagnosis, because there's
Mhm.
already people who are waiting for help. She said, but you do have the multiple diagnostic traits of ASPD, and your
Yeah.
paper was entirely correct. So I was like, "Oh, okay." And so I was like, "Wow." I thought the thing about it was is that I wasn't so it wasn't like a big shock, but I thought, "Wow, like, I've been able to self-diagnose, and I don't have a lot of GCSEs. I never went to university. I'm not on paper, I'm pretty stupid, if that makes sense. I went
Uh-huh.
to a basic, I think what you call in America, a community college,
Yeah.
like non-paid tuition. And I got kicked
Mhm.
out of that because I was always, just drinking bits and pieces, just doing my own thing. And
Mhm.
I thought, wow, I was like, I've been able to self-diagnose myself with this extremely different, with a cluster B disorder. Like, not a lot of people can say they can do that. So I almost hold it as like an achievement, if that makes sense. Because I'm like, well,
Yeah.
none of you could probably do it. But yeah, and I just thought, wow. And then I just went back to watching TV. And, but yeah, that's more or less the story of how I found out. I did this personality test, and I just went down this rabbit hole. And yeah,
It sounds like I think you said this, that, there was kind of a change a year ago or something, or, like, you haven't always kind of been interested in this kind of thing. Was that a gradual change or more of a dramatic change?
no, it was quite dramatic. I was leading a life, let's say, for 5 years that wasn't the best. It was getting me nowhere. Basically, it was just aggravation, and and I had something happened at the very end of last year, and I was like, right, I've got to get out of this. Enough's enough. I'm done now. Do you know what I mean? And
Mhm.
then I started like discovering that the whole it happened simultaneously, but I started like working out.
Mm.
I wasn't into religion yet, but sort of embracing the whole like Sigma male concept. Just being the best traditionally masculine man I could be, and being
Mm.
as self-aware as possible. And a couple of months later, I had a spiritual experience with God, and that led me to becoming a Christian. But like even now, it's so hard because I've still got a lot of like judgments in me, and we're not supposed to have that. And
Mm.
the pride, the narcissism is really the thing that like I struggle with the most, I'd say. But
With the
no, no,
Christianity?
it is. Yeah, yeah, because pride is one of the seven deadly sins. It's what made I think it's the archangel Gabriel or Peter. I'm not too sure, but it's what made Satan fall from heaven. It was his pride,
Right.
and that is something that it doesn't even feel like I can. It's not about having hold of it and letting it go. It's just an ingrained part of me.
Mm.
Like I can't trust anyone. I can't trust your opinion because I know better than you, and do you know what I mean? It's things
Yeah.
like that. But I like to think that I'm forgiven. Whether I am is a different story. But you know,
So, with the pride, you said you have some judgments that you shouldn't have, so do you mean like you see other people and you're like, "Oh, that person's not as good," or something? Is that the sort of judgment you mean?
generally,
Or
yeah, sometimes, yeah, but it can just be like even like a little passing judgment on someone. Do you know what I mean? And
yeah,
definitely very. I appear to be very optimistic, and I'll say things that are that would suggest that I'm very optimist, but really deep down, I'm very much a pessimist. Or I try
interesting.
not to be now. I've become more optimistic since being Christian. But like I go to church every Sunday, and I like it. But I, there are times where like it's difficult. Like I remember there was a guy at church, and he was telling about how his mum had just had an operation on her lung because she had cancer or something like that. And empathy is the one thing that no matter how many times the situation comes up, it just you can it's my giveaway. I'd say, do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
And it was three of us talking, and one of the guys he did like a little move with his head, like a little move back like that. And so I've sort of memorized that move and like copy him, and you know what I mean. And then so I memorized little moves,
uh-huh.
like all little social moves, like little gestures, that the body language. But otherwise, I'll just stand there still. And I had a guy in work the other. This was today, and he said something like, "Oh, like, because I just look pretty much blank most of the time. If I think people aren't looking at me, this guy comes up
Yeah.
to me and says, "Oh, like you should smile more." And I'm like, well, logically, no, I shouldn't really. Do you know what I mean? But sometimes it'll be either I'm not smiling at all, or I'm smiling so much my jaw hurts,
Mm,
and I sort of forget to stop putting on the smiley face. Do you know what I mean?
yeah.
So my jaw like almost physically locks, and I go, "All right, release now."
Huh. So the reason why you turned down the CBT is why? Just
I don't
'cause
need it. I
mm,
really I don't need. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, but this is the thing, right? The doctor, the GP, when he like this is the GP, not the psychiatrist, I should say. But one of his
mhm.
questions that he asked me was like, "Are you planning on killing anybody?" And I said no. But in my head, I thought, "Am I going to really tell you if let's say I've got a blueprint in own right, and you know what I mean? Am I
Mhm.
really going to go, oh yeah, I'm planning on killing, Terry down the road. I'm going to do it on Wednesday. Do you know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
Send for send the police round. What a stupid question to ask. Are you going to kill anyone? Yeah, yeah. Two thumbs up. Yeah, no. And I wasn't anyway. Hands up. But yeah, it's just one of them. Uh, People asking death questions like that, it's kind of, I don't know. I thought, well, that's one thing I just thought, well, how would you ask that?
Well, has it changed the way that you kind of view yourself at all to have gone through that process?
Like I said, it's made me more self-aware. Like I'm more, like in certain moments, I'm more self-aware. I go, oh, you know what I mean?
Mm,
But has it changed me? No, I mean, it's funny. Like I was saying to you before, I was watching not long after I found out the news from the doctor. Because I'm hilarious, I thought I'll watch American Psycho. It's a fun watch anyway. I like it, and
Mhm.
I was watching it. And I was going, "Oh, this is silly." This guy wouldn't even exist in real life, to be honest. And but at there's one thing about that film that hits the nail on the head with psychopathy more than narcissism, which I think that really delves into more. But at the end, he has that monologue, and it's in the book as well. If I'm not correctly mistaken, not, yeah, if I'm not mistaken. But in the end of the film, he says, "Oh, he only realizes he gets away with all the murders." And at the end of the film, he says, "This confession has meant nothing." And I went, "That's it," because nothing changes when you find out you have anything. Nothing changes. Everything that it was going to happen, it is going to happen anyway. You just know this one extra detail about yourself,
Mhm.
and that's it. But I thought, wow, I thought after I think it is 7 months it took since more or less the start of this year. For 7 months, I've been going down this rabbit hole with the doctors and the psychiatrists and the psychologists just to hear the word, "Oh yeah, you were right. Bye." That's just what I thought of when I was watching that, and I went, "Oh, and it sort of has meant nothing, hasn't it?" Do you know what I mean? Because I'm still me. It's not like I'm going to change, but
Yeah.
yeah, that was rather I'd say profound is maybe the right word, but yeah, definitely that's the way I'd put it for sure.
You said that you have been a little bit more self-aware. Is that because of the diagnosis or just because kind of like when you wrote out your report, your self-report, or what do you mean by a little bit
It
more
sort of came
self-aware?
before. It came more at the start of it. It was a gradual process, but it was things like
Mm,
because again with my bad memory, I don't remember a lot of things. But apparently, as well with people with ASPD, we tend not to have good memories anyway because memories and emotion are strongly linked. And it makes
yeah,
sense if you think about it. Like you remember, like people remember their wedding day because it was the happiest day of their life, or
yeah,
the funeral of the mum or dad. Or, you know what I mean? Your memories and your emotions. You remember things that you emotionally felt a lot, which
right.
makes sense. But because we're not emotionally tied to our memories, we don't feel the need to subconsciously remember a lot of it.
Mhm.
But yeah, as I was self-diagnosing myself, the thing is, I kept fighting against myself. I kept saying to myself, "Oh no, I wouldn't be a psychopath if I like stand-up comedy, for instance."
Mm,
And now,
mhm.
because there's no excuse not to know anything, we've got the internet in our pockets. So I'll type in something like, "Do psychopaths like to have a laugh?" And a Reddit
Uh-huh.
forum will come up, a Quora forum will come up, and someone like yourself who is already diagnosed will have, there's a thread on everything.
Uh-huh.
So and every time I was trying, or like music was one, I was going, "No, but I wouldn't like music if I was a sociopath."
Mhm.
And every time I tried to prove myself wrong,
Mm,
it wouldn't work. And I was going, "No," I was going, I can't get out of it." Do you know what I mean?
mhm.
And so that's what I'd say. If you're going to self-diagnose for yourself for anything, whatever whatever it is, try and prove yourself wrong. And when you can't prove yourself wrong, no matter what you try, then you can know that you're onto something and be sure. But
Mm,
the becoming self-aware part, I remember one time I was looking at emotional responses, and I was going, "Oh, do you know what? I wonder if mine are ever off." Well, I knew they were, but I thought, has it ever been noticed? So I rang up
mm,
my baby's mother and I said, "Hey," I said, "have you ever noticed me, or like noticed any sort of emotional response where you thought, oh, that's weird?" And she said, "Yeah, there was a time where her best friend had died, and
mm.
she was sat next to me on the sofa, and she received the news on her phone from, I think it was her mother, and I wouldn't say her name, but my baby's mother, will call her Lindsay. Lindsay starts to cry, like sob next to me, and I was
Mhm.
just like, I'm just sat like I am now, really, but except I've got this, crying woman next to me. And I
Yeah.
thought, oh God. And do you know what I mean? And so I put my arm around her and I said something very almost cheesy, like, it'll be okay, something like, I mean, really, I wasn't putting on a good show. And she said to me, oh, I noticed it. She said you were empathetic for about a minute, but then after about those like 40 to 60 seconds, you were just like sort of back to normal, back to nothing. And that's what gave it away. I didn't keep it up for long enough. So, and, but she said the other thing was, she said the thing that really upset me was a week later, she was, I was in the kitchen, I think, putting away tins of food, like shopping. And
Mhm.
she said she was on the phone. I think they were talking about the funeral for this best mate of hers, and she said something. I think a mate said something to her on the phone, and she started getting upset over it. I mean, this is a week after she's heard the news of her friend dying, and I thought, come on again, really, like you're whinging, like which I know sounds heartless to a lot of people, but do you know what I mean? I'm going, blimey, like, so anyway, so she starts crying again, and she said, "Do you remember the time where?" Bear in mind, I have no memory of this, but I know that she wouldn't lie about something like this. So I know it happened because she said she remembers it very well. Obviously,
Mhm.
she starts crying about, about her best mate being dead, and she said, "You like screamed at me for like a solid minute." And you said something to her like, "Oh, it's not my fault. Your best friend's dead, so stop your crying and just help," and something like that. And she said, and then you just like went in the living room and sat down with our son and watched TV as if nothing had happened. And yeah, that was, and I went, wow, and did I do that? And I went, well, to be honest, I went, that does sound like me. And but yeah, and I went, "No, do you know what?" And then looking back on like little things from when I was in my adolescence as well, like I remember once swinging an axe into my best friend's head through a door, and it was over. It was, well, I say it was over nothing. Again, it was that authority.
Uh,
We were in an abandoned building, and I actually referenced this story in my paper,
uh-huh.
and the nurse like she had a look at it and had a chuckle when I gave it to her, and but we were in an abandoned building and it's like two floors, and on this one room on the second floor we like made our little little hideout, little sit off, we can smoke our bits and pieces, and you know what I mean. And we had a game of
Mhm.
Monopoly set out. I think I was the
Uh-huh.
top hat. I can't quite be sure on that. And because it was like an open abandoned building, and round here there's a lot of crime that, do you know what I mean? It's bang on round here. You know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
And so we used to always have like I had an axe that I carried with me, like a big rubber one, about a big axe with a heavy
Mhm.
lump on the back of it. And
Yeah.
I think one of my mates had like a in retail what you got the hang the clothes on, like the poles. Had
Yeah.
one of them. So it's an abandoned charity shop, so she had one of them, and the other mate had something else. We were both girls, and one of the girls who was like rather big, I went out to do something, so I took my axe with me in case some like smackhead tries to come in and I could just do him. Bear in
Uh-huh.
mind, 16 as well, do you know what I mean? Which now I look back and because people said to me, God, that's nuts. And I go, oh, yeah, well, maybe it is a bit. But I've gone out to do something, I've come back, and she shut the door on me, and the door doesn't lock, but she's got to wait on the, you know what I mean? She's going, you're not getting in, Ted. I'm going, you better let me in, or I'm just going to weigh you in with this. I said, you better let me in now, like two or three times. And she's going, no, no, thinking she's funny, trying to impress our other mate. And I
Uh-huh.
thought, well, I'll show you. And because it's like a wooden door with a glass, like chicken wire, like metal chicken wire
Yeah.
window,
Uh-huh.
a glass square window in the middle, but it had been painted over, so you couldn't
Uh-huh.
see through it. And so she's on the other side of this door. And next thing, what I do is I just get the axe, and I don't think I said the rhyme, from the Three Little Pigs. I said, I'm going to huff and I'll puff and I'll blow your house in. And then I just swung the axe through the door, but like through the window that had been painted over. And I just heard this, like, this scream, like the two really loud screams. And one of them went, Ted, stop. So I just kept on going. And I went, now I'm chopping down this door. I was just chopping it and chopping it and chopping it. And then she finally moved away. And I opened the door and I went, not too funny now, are you? And girl who was holding the door, she like ran out of the room like crying. I sort of stood there and I went, "The hell's she crying about?" You know, she's you asked me, don't hold the door on me then, innit? Do you know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
And I said, right. I went, whose turn is it at Monopoly? And my mate looked at me and she went, you just like, because the blade was quite blunt, but like
Mhm.
she said that the axe had hit her, but like with the back of the axe, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like the side of it just like it hit her in the head.
Mm.
And she went out like holding her eye. Probably she had glass in her eye and had to have it taken out. But
Yeah.
like I just thought, well, it's done now. I've got my goal. I've got in the room. So I'm like, whose turn is it at Monopoly? And like,
Yeah.
just give me this look. And she was like, you've just nearly killed. You've just nearly killed her. Like literally, you've literally just nearly killed her. And I thought, well, she's still on her two legs.
Mm.
What are I said, who cares? So just who says it a monopoly and that? I didn't view it as a big serious thing. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
She was on the other side of the door. She shouldn't have been. The axe went through. It is what it is.
Yeah, it is what it is.
Yeah, yeah. See, do you know what I mean? It's good for everything. It is what it is.
Yeah.
But
And did she
I just thought
stay your friend, or did she stop being your friend?
we stayed because we were like a little. To be honest, we were like a bit of like a little trio of like junkies. Like we used to nick like medication from family members and such. And I remember
Mhm.
that it was the same mate who were hit with the axe. Her parents used to like go on these holidays, like all inclusives to like Spain, Greece, and they'd always come back with like a few €100.
Uh-huh.
And what what we used to do is we used to break into a parent's bedroom, and as well as stealing like the dihydrocodeine, I think it was they got prescribed, we'd steal the money, and then I'd go over to the like Euro exchange in the
Yeah.
local shopping centre. And because they always, her parents are saying to her, look, we know you're stealing money, we know you're stealing dough off us. So I used to go to the Euro exchange so that she wouldn't be seen on the camera. Do you know what I mean?
Okay.
Exchange the
Uh-huh.
money and then, use it to like, buy a bit of dope and or a bottle of vodka or something like that. That but that was just all we used to get up to for a couple of years, and then like, I don't have friends now. But like I said, I have one friend who I keep in touch with who's down in London. But she's like a virtual friend, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
But I know she has a little crush on me, and I tease her with it. You know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
But yeah, friends have just never. It confuses me. I saw a post about this on Facebook the other day, and people. I don't believe there's such a thing as a true friend. If I'm honest, there isn't no. You smile, but I'm right. Do you know what I mean? There's no such thing as a friend is someone who's supposed to, be a friend who. I'm not even sure I really get it, to be honest. It just baffles me. I said this to my baby's mother. She's got a best friend of 20 years, and like sometimes they'll just go out and and talk to each other and then go home, and I'll go, well, what's the point? You know what I mean? I don't get it. It just baffles me like why you'd want to keep that. I don't know. I really don't know. The friendship, you can see me. I'm just hitting a brick wall talking about it. I'm not the. You know what I mean? um, yeah, I had. See, I did have a best friend when I was younger. One who I was emotionally invested in, and that's just that. They ended up. I didn't. I liked it because it was a new feeling, but at the same time, you also feel vulnerable as well. So there's that. And I just think, why would I allow that? You know, I couldn't anymore, but you know, why would you allow that vulnerability to even be a possibility? If that
Mhm.
makes sense.
Yeah.
But you know, like I'm polite. You know what I mean? You know, my dad said to me, he goes, you know, you're dead charming. You know, you're polite, and you know, I end up talking to a lot of people, but I don't have any friends. Friends are just they're not for me, and I, I'm more I'm more interested. I more just want to find. I'm more interested in finding my future wife. Do you know what I mean? Like getting married to, you know, and having a wife. That's like, yeah, 100% definitely. Do you know what I mean?
Huh.
And but friends are just, I don't know the idea. Do you have friends? It seems
I do
everybody
have
does.
friends. Yeah,
That,
but
that, that that's crazy. I think that's crazy. How many? How many do you have?
I mean, I have a ton of friends. I feel like I wonder if too it might be different because, like the gender kind of things for girls, there's like
Yeah, like
something. Yeah, and it's interesting because do you know like Sonny Bono and Cher?
Sonny Bono. He hit the tree, didn't he?
Yeah, I think he did. Yeah,
Yeah,
ski
yeah.
accident.
Cheers, the singer with the face like a horse. Yeah,
Yeah, and they have a child that now Chaz Bono. So Chaz assigned female at birth, I think is how we say it, and then transitioned to be male, right? And Chaz was dating a woman, so before Chaz transitioned genders, was in a lesbian
oh,
relationship.
but,
Yeah,
right,
yeah,
because this gender bender stuff. So she was
uh-huh.
born a girl. She was
Well, so then she transitions and in taking the hormones and taking the male hormones,
okay.
Chad, yeah, Chaz said that that they used to, or he used to, like small talk, like girl talk is I think the term, like girl talk
Yeah,
and just talk about nothing forever, hours and hours talk about nothing. But then after taking the male hormones, could not talk girl talk anymore. Like it was too boring. It was like
yeah. No,
stupid, kind of pointless.
I'm not a fan of small talk.
Yeah. Well, I thought it was
100%.
really interesting because it's the same person, it's the exact same person. It's the same relationship. I think that like that was even like was they were married. And but just after taking male hormones, there's just no interest in talking to your wife like that anymore. So ever since then I've kind of thought, that was like a big kind of realization for me in terms of realizing how much hormones make a difference. Male, female hormones, or really any hormones. But yeah, I wonder if that's like a little bit of a difference where I feel like it's pretty easy for me. I don't like small talk, but I don't mind girl talk. Girl talk's usually like gossip. What else is it about?
Your hair
I
and
don't know,
nails
clothes,
and
yeah.
boys. Yeah.
Exactly, celebrities maybe, movies, books, just kinda chit-chatting about, like,
Oh,
what
movies.
happened,
Yeah.
who
I
said
mean,
what.
I'm a big cinephile. So, like, I mean, like,
Mm,
you know, the classics. You know, A Clockwork Orange, Taxi Driver.
classics.
Hey, they
Yeah,
are classics.
they
They
are
are.
classics. I
But,
was just gonna ask you what films do you like? I could have maybe guessed those too.
yeah, yeah. But, it's Clockwork Orange, definitely. Taxi Driver. I'm looking up at my film shelf now. Um, yeah, America. See the thing, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the original.
Uh-huh.
I'm not a remake guy, but
Mhm.
yeah, the thing as well about American Psycho, I've noticed because Patrick Bateman's become very popularized in the last couple of years, and everyone goes, "Oh, American Psycho, it's a great film." It's not. People don't. People think that they like American Psycho, and they don't. They like Christian Bale in American Psycho. If he
Mm.
wasn't in it, and it was anybody else, they wouldn't really pay attention to it. I
Oh,
can
I
tell.
see.
I can tell you that now for a fact. And the book, there's a lot more in the book.
Mm.
I was reading the book and I was loving it. Like where he puts he ties he pins a girl down with a nail gun by her hands and feet, and then it's one of these books as you're reading it, you go, how did they make a film of this? And
Yeah.
he puts it. Have you read it?
No, I haven't, but, my girlfriend loves Bret Easton Ellis, the author, and
Yeah.
what do you have, like, any thoughts about Bret Easton Ellis being a psychopath?
Is he? I didn't know.
No, I just kinda wonder. He's able to write crazy stuff, that's true. I
Uh,
think we can all agree
I
about
mean,
that.
yeah, I mean, I think I don't know. I mean, I think anybody can write crazy stuff. Do you
Mm,
know what I mean? And, I wouldn't. I mean, maybe he is. Maybe he should go see his doctor. Who knows?
yeah,
But
GP first and then get
yeah,
referred.
yeah, yeah. GP first, all that. And then just get rejected because he doesn't. Well, he get confirmed, but then he'll get rejected because he doesn't want CBT. But now
Yeah,
in the book, I was sat here reading it, and I was going, God, hold it. When he puts like a funnel, like a funnel in a tube,
mm.
puts it in this girl's vagina, and then he gets this rat who's like in
Oh,
like a little
gross.
apparatus, gets a
Uh-huh,
rat, but he starved this rat for about a week.
uh-huh.
And the way he describes the rat just shooting straight up the funnel, and the expression on the girl's face is changing, and I'm going, God, I wish they'd have filmed this scene. I'd kill to see him. You know what I mean? A
Yeah, that
director's
is
put that in it.
yeah, it's interesting because, like, I sometimes think this, like, how many nerves do I have inside my body? Like, would I be able to feel like a rat eating me out from the inside?
Do you know what? I definitely think I think anybody would. I think because especially if it's working its way up to
Yeah,
like your vitals,
mhm,
yeah, you definitely. There's no
yeah,
way you wouldn't.
yeah. Especially at the beginning, like the vaginal canal, there's, like, a lot of sensory whatever,
Yeah,
erogenous zone.
I remember reading. I think it in the. I think it's the clitoris has like 8,000 nerve endings or 10,000. You know what I mean? So, and that's
Yeah.
just like one little thing out of your entire body. You've got your fingertips and the palms
Yeah,
of your
that for
hand.
sure you would feel, but is that what the rat's eating, or is it more the inside?
Well, I don't have to be honest, I don't have one of them. Do you know what I mean? I don't have a
Yeah,
clitoris, so I can't really. I'm not. I don't feel like I'm there to give. I can't give my opinion on that.
yeah.
It's more a you question than a me question, to be honest. But yeah, the book is brilliant, and yeah, there's a scene because Bret Easton Ellis, he includes a lot of real life, like brands in his books and everything. Like in they had murders with the film because like brands like Rolex didn't want to be associated with a movie
Oh,
about
yeah.
a
Mhm.
path, and all like different suits are mentioned, like and clothes and movies, and Donald Trump is mentioned a bunch of times in the book. But
Mhm.
there's a really good scene in the book where because he lives in the same building as Tom Cruise, and he gets in the lift with Tom Cruise, and he says to him, "Oh, I saw you in that film, so and so," and then Tom Cruise says to Bateman, "Oh, that I wasn't in that. I wasn't in that," and he's like really angry because he gets it wrong. And
Oh,
yeah, yeah, yeah. But it's
does
a
Bateman get it wrong intentionally just to mess with Tom
no, no,
Cruise, or
it's a pure accident. He like
yeah,
because he wants because he's Tom Cruise, and
yeah.
so that narcissism playing him where he's like wants to be around the higher up people. He wants to impress him, but
Mhm.
he completely buggers it.
Yeah. Poor Tom Cruise.
Yeah, he could have had a little cameo, couldn't he? He could have had a little
Yeah,
cameo. Is
yeah.
it Mary something who did the film? I'm not Mary someone. I know that much. I know it was a woman who directed it.
Oh, cool.
Mm.
I actually don't think I've seen it. That's a funny thing to admit.
It's yeah, it's I saw it years ago when I was 15, I think, 15 to
Uh-huh.
16. But then I revisited it more, and I started like looking at like Silence of the Lambs as well as I was looking at ASPD. And but movies, to be honest, are a waste of time. I didn't look at movies too long, and I went, you know what? I went, it is all Hollywood, and I just
Yeah.
like looked at like you know again interviews with diagnosed psychopaths. Like I watched your series on psychopathy is, that was
Uh-huh.
far more helpful than any blockbuster that's come out. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
And interviews with serial killers, medical conferences like Dr. Ramani Davasula. Do you know the lady I'm on about?
She pops up in, like, my feed or whatever. She shows up in
Yeah,
my
she still pops
suggested
up
things,
in
but I don't think
mine.
I've
Yeah,
seen.
but and like all the different terms, and I watched bits and pieces of Kanika Batra.
Yeah,
Um,
mhm,
yeah, yeah, and that I just sucked anything that I could read or get something from. I just sucked it in like a sponge, and
mhm,
I couldn't help but apply most of it to myself, and that was by I think it was not long after my first appointment. I thought, yeah, I've definitely got this. Like, I started like testing myself in little ways, and I thought, yeah, do you know what? I was like, my baby's mother's right, and my dad's right, and like
mhm.
there's just some like I just can't emotionally bond with people. Like, I was thinking about it before we started. Like
Yeah,
the way people will bond over laughing. Do you know what I mean? Like, I like having a laugh. I had a best mate from school, from like, I mean, from a very young age all the way through to the end of secondary school, like for 10 years. And nearly, every day without fail, we always had a laugh. But when it came to finishing school, I never contacted him again. You know what I
oh,
mean?
yeah,
And people used to say to me, "Oh God, don't you miss him?" And I'm like, "Oh no." Do you know what I mean? Like, then grow up. you
yeah,
know? And
interesting.
I mean, that's just my cold heartedness. But
Yeah,
yeah, I
the
never
Ted
felt like
Bundy quote behind you, "I'm the
oh
most
yeah,
cold-hearted, yeah, son of a bitch you'll ever meet."
that is just the best way of describing. I'm nice. I'm polite and nice on the surface,
Mhm,
but like truly inside, you might even. I mean, I don't know because someone's ever said you might think you have a bond with me of some sort, but really, to be honest, no, you don't matter, and it doesn't matter what you say or what you promise you're going to say or promise you're going to do. It just truly doesn't matter to me, and it never will. And that's just the way I'm wired. Do you know what I mean?
yeah,
I haven't said a prayer or I haven't asked to be this way. It is what
yeah,
it is, and it happens for some people. But another thing I was looking at as well, there are four. They're called ACEs, adverse childhood experiences.
yes,
There's four that are most commonly associated with ASPD. I've had every single one. There's
really,
4 out of 4, yeah, and there's also two other negative traumas. They have a slightly different name, but they're basically the same thing. But it's a group of two of them. I've had both of them as well.
mhm,
Trying to flick through this page with leather gloves on. So bear with me. Yeah, ACEs and early trauma linked to ASPD. I see I've even included all the sources here, like source Dr. Todd Grande, professional counsellor, blah blah blah. ACEs, overprotective, overbearing mother, check. Bullying, check. Chronic aggression, check. Excessive TV viewing, definitely I'd say between the ages of maybe 11 to 14, which are like
interesting,
pretty,
I didn't even know that was considered an ACE.
yeah, excessive TV viewing, that was one.
Hmm,
And chronic aggression, and that has always been like my number one main problem is just like the, I should have a criminal record as long as my arm, really, and
yeah,
I'm amazed that I don't. But remember my mum and dad, they both said this. I don't talk to either of them anymore, but they've always said for years, they said, like you were all right up until about the age of 12, and then
mm,
something just changed. And they've never they've said that for years and years and years, and this is what it is. I realised, and but I even have a cousin in France, and remember my mum telling me, she said, "Oh, your auntie's just called, and your cousin was like caught stealing, and she didn't show any sign of like remorse, and they think she has conduct disorder, and like my
mm,
mum was looking dead worried, and I think she told me like, oh, these are like the early signs of a sociopath." And I
yeah,
just didn't really care, to be honest, because I don't know this cousin that well, but
mhm,
her behaviour comes from both sides.
yeah,
Like this, that's from my mother's side, but on my father's side, like his brother, who's dead now, God rest his soul. A lot of his behaviour was sociopathic, like the stories that my dad's told me about him. So I know for a fact there's a genetic link there, as well as the people always say nurture or nature. It's not
Hmm.
nature or nature. It's how much of both.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But
Hmm.
yeah, and there's two. See, childhood neglect and ASPD. Oh, I've just written it in big fat paragraphs. You think of the bullet points today. I ain't reading through it. You want to know? Look it up yourself, viewer. But
Yeah.
uh, but yeah, I was looking at them. Do you know Dr. Todd Grande? He's on YouTube as well.
Yeah, I've seen his thumbnails and somebody referenced him once or twice or something, but I haven't sat down and watched any of his videos, I don't think. Does he talk about this too?
He talks about all sorts. Talks about ASPD and like early signs of psychopathy, like clinical psychopathy in a child, and
Mm,
all sorts. He was a big help. You know, he's I've got it here. Professional counsellor, counsellor educator, content creator, specialises in personality disorders,
hmm,
addiction trauma, and psychopathology. So
yeah,
he's one of the main ones to go to. But,
interesting.
mm, yeah, he definitely he was a good hub of info. But like I said, well, I didn't say, but like I say, if you want to know about something like that, you go to, hear it from the horse's mouth. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
No, I totally know what you mean. In fact, when you were talking about this earlier, like when I like I'm assuming older, like the internet was kind of like a thing that I only experienced starting in college, and it was still so early, that like Google wasn't really a thing until like I was like 24, 25 or something. Um so I was using like Metacrawler and like these other kind of like older
never
search
heard of it.
engines.
Never heard
Yeah,
of it.
and so people it was before blogs were really popular. It was before like people had access to kind of make their own websites. Most people, like computer science people had websites or something. And I remember when I first I think like in my mid to late 20s, when I finally started to do my own research about this and be like, let's look into this, let's see what's going on with this. I remember seeing somebody's comment, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, this is exactly me." Like, it was obviously about sociopaths, and
Yeah,
she had, like, 3 paragraphs or something. I think I say she because I think she had kind of a female username, who knows, though, and I remember replying back to her, like, making a username for, like, this, like, old whatever it was, MySpace or something, username for this thing so I could reply back to her and be like, even though she had said it years before, I was like, "Are you still checking this? Like, do you please contact me. I'm interested to talk to you."
yeah,
That was like the only real thing that I was finally like, wow, this is crazy. This feels as if I had written it. That was like the level of kind of how much it resonated with me. And I still think, like, thank God for this woman, she'll
yeah,
never know me. I don't remember well enough to know like what website it was or whatever. It's been too long or something. But I just remember really appreciating her. I often, not super often, but like I've thought about her like many times through the years, thinking like I was just glad that she kind of left me some breadcrumbs, behind so I could kind of follow and understand myself a little bit better. Now, obviously, like nobody's the same, we're all different and stuff,
yeah.
but it's interesting. In fact, it's almost even more important then that people share their own stories because things that would resonate with me wouldn't resonate with you, maybe, etc.
Yeah, like I said, when reading your book, there were parts where I was like, oh no, that's not me at all. But then there were other parts that were hit the nail on the head, and I went, oh yeah, yeah, that, boom, boom, boom. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
yeah, we're all different. We're not clones of each other. I think that's what everyone thinks. Like we're all going to be clones, and like you can spot us out like that. And I always say, sociopaths and psychopaths, we're the nicest people that you know because we know because we know how to be nice. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah.
And
No, I agree. I think even this is something I thought about because uh you know we know what is pleasing, I guess, to people, and I think there's kind of a rumor that like psychopaths are like better at sex than normal people. You know,
oh
I
yeah,
I I
oh
have
yeah,
done no
you rock. not to be
Double
too
blind
crass, but
experiments or whatever. That'd be a really interesting double
you like
blind
you know
experiment.
what? I described it to my mate. I said the way that we view sex is that your body is like a machine, you know, sort of like, do you know these old cartoons where you've got like a little man like in an engine room of a boat and he's like pulling 50 levers at once and pushing
Mhm.
buttons to make it like that's kind of the way we do it. Like we're like, oh yeah, touch this bit here, stroke that bit there, blah blah blah. You know what I mean? It's like we're working a
Uh-huh.
machine. That's what
Yeah.
it's like. And, and do you know what as well? Um, because after my dad made a comparison, I think I told you when we weren't recording, but my dad rang me up on a voicemail. He left me a
Mm.
voicemail saying that I reminded him of Patrick Bateman from American Psycho, and I thought, oh, that's rubbish. And so I said to my baby's mother, I said, hey, do you mind coming around watching this film with me and just seeing like if you spot anything? And
Mhm.
but most of it, she was like, "Oh yeah, like you know, you're pretty cold and all that." But she said the main thing that stood out for her was is that scene where he's having sex with like these two prostitutes in his bedroom, and he's looking at himself in the mirror, flexing his muscles, and there hadn't really been a reaction from her at all. But when that came on, and there's that moment where he's like that, and she like jumped up almost and was like clicking her fingers, pointing at the screen. And she went, "There you are, there you are." She said, "I've seen you in the past week, so I've seen you when you do that, and you're looking at yourself." And and like
Mhm.
she said, "Oh, like, I hate it." And I'm like, "What?" I'm like, "No, I'm like, I look good." Do you know what I mean? And but that was the main thing she took from that. I thought that's quite funny.
Yeah, that is really funny. Yeah, I agree with you about these like lever things. Have you ever seen Watchmen, the movie?
Nah, no, I can't say I have.
Yeah. Do you know at all about it? There's this character, Dr. Manhattan. It's like it's from a graphic
I think
novel,
I've
I
heard the
believe.
names. I couldn't. I'm not going to pretend to be the expert on it though.
Oh, no worries. So there's this character who he's blue, if people have like kind of a memory of this, and he's like capable of like for various reasons, he's capable of kind of being in multiple places at once. And so there's a scene where he's having sex with like his girlfriend, and he's just like everywhere.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah,
he's
yeah,
also reading a book, and he's also like doing something else. And I'm
yeah.
like, yeah.
Yeah, it is honestly, it is like working a machine almost. That's the
Yeah.
best way of putting it. And yeah,
Yeah.
we're like, I'm looking at her facial expressions. I'm going, ah, yeah, like if I do this, oh, she'll love that.
Yeah.
But it's not
I
like a
like to
big.
think too that there's like a humility there. Like I do not have like my ego, my identity kind of wrapped up in kind of any of that. Like I'm not like I need to be the best at sex or whatever. And so I feel like it's less about me, like in a way that's like good. I think for the other person. Do you identify with that at all?
No, no, I'm the
You're
best. I'm the,
flexing in the mirror.
it's not in the mirror, but it's in because it is like the TV's quite big, so
Yeah.
the screen's very reflective. And so you know what I mean? Like I've got a big reflective view. So not in
Yeah.
the mirror per se, but yeah, in the reflection of the TV. It's like a 70 something inch screen. So you know there's plenty of mirror room in it.
That's funny.
So yeah, it did make me laugh. But I went, yeah, you know, I wasn't ashamed of it. I thought, oh well, yeah, do that. So, you know, I've been working out for months now since last year, December.
Mhm.
Maybe November, and like you know, I've vastly improved myself. So excuse me for wanting to have a little glance.
Well, what do you think about, like, the differences you kinda mentioned that you think that, Patrick Bateman in American Psycho is more narcissistic than psychopathic. What do you think are some of the differences between narcissism and psychopathy then?
See, not NPD itself. I haven't looked. You know, as you're looking into psychopathy, naturally it comes up in bits
Mhm.
and pieces here and then. But from what I understand, it's like Dr. Romani said. She said all psychopaths are narcissists. but it doesn't mean that they have NPD per se. But not all narcissists are psychopaths,
Mm,
and that's perfectly true. But I think the main difference is that narcissists, if correct me if I'm wrong, but they have like an inner sense of shame,
mm,
and they are still putting on that exterior, people with NPD, but it's to hide the feeling of shame.
mm.
Whereas, like, I'm not ashamed. Do you know what I mean? Like, just the
Yeah.
shame element isn't there. Um, I'm not too sure what their emotional range or radar is, but I'm guessing maybe it's slightly affected, but maybe depending on how severely afflicted they are with NPD. That's my uneducated take on it, I guess.
Yeah. Were there any other when you were kind of like making your report and stuff? I mean, they mentioned a little bit of autism. Were there kind of any other things that you considered, might be true? Any
Nah, that was
diagnoses?
good. That only came up like at the very end as well. Like that didn't even come up until the final phone call from the nurse confirming me that I was right all along in my suspicions. But
Yeah.
she said ever so slightly is the phrase.
Yeah.
And I think it's true, but like I like what I like. I'm very routine orientated. But
Mhm.
I don't even really consider that to be a mental disorder. Do you know what I mean? I
Yeah.
like my routine. That's not it's not a medical thing. Do you know what I mean? But she said ever so
Yeah,
slightly
I
is the
kind of
thing.
agree. Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't even really consider it. Maybe I am. Who cares? Do you know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
To be honest, I'm the same with the ASPD, but it's just like now I know myself a lot better.
Yeah.
But yeah, but it's more, yeah, American Psycho. Like I said, see, it would be a more appropriate title would be the American Narcissist. That's a
Uh-huh.
lot more of a truthful title to the film's content. But the American Psycho is going to put a lot more bums on seats in the
Yeah.
pictures, and who's going to go and see a film called American Narcissist?
Yeah, and I think people are like, do narcissists kill people? No, that's what psychopaths do. If somebody's killing somebody, then they're definitely psychopath.
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah, well, there's empaths that do it. I mean, I don't know if you've heard about the nurse over here.
Oh my
Um,
gosh, yes.
yeah, the word psychopath was getting thrown around by a couple of people, but the actual take on it is that she has a thing called Munchausen syndrome,
Oh,
which is
uh-huh.
like completely different. Like she has the traits, like the clearly obviously the lack of empathy, but we don't even know really if she does feel guilty or not about it.
What is her name again for people who don't know what we're talking about?
Lucy Letby, she was a
Yeah.
nurse based in Chester
Uh-huh.
in in England, in where I am, and
Yeah, it was a
has,
neonatal. She's a neonatal
yeah,
nurse, right?
she was on a ward. She was in charge of caring for premature babies, like babies that were born prematurely.
Yeah.
And it happened years ago, but it's only come to light now. But I
Mhm.
think she started doing it back in 2015, 2016.
Yeah, I heard.
But she didn't get arrested until 2019,
Isn't
and
that
then it
crazy?
hasn't hit the headlines until about a month ago. So it's been happening for a long time, but the public, us, we haven't been made aware of it till now. But yeah, absolutely. I was, do you know what I thought of that? I thought, well, why? I thought, well, maybe like, yeah, a psychopath would, to kill, you'd want to feel power, but like, I don't think a psychopath would have a need to feel power over such a powerless human being. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I
That
agree.
makes sense. Like if I was, if I was going to kill someone, I'm not going to go for like the little, certainly not a little baby. Like, you know what I mean? But
Especially a premature
I'd go for some.
baby.
I mean, to be honest, I've got a history of going for big men. Just,
Mhm.
do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And but it just didn't add up to me. I thought, no, not that. I thought the victim type just doesn't add up. A
Mhm.
sadist, definitely.
Yeah.
Um, but psychopathy, no, I don't think she is a psychopath. I think there's a couple of people that have thrown it about, and she definitely, obviously, there's some traits there. But Munchausen syndrome is the diagnosis I think they went with for her. which
Hmm.
is I haven't looked into that at all. But yeah, that's she's the most prolific. She set the bar, the most prolific child serial killer that we've ever had in UK history.
Wow.
And but yeah, it was just crazy. It's just the amount of time that it's been kept under wrap for. Like I was in school when that started, and that just seems so like like I'm going to school every day, and meanwhile there's this nurse across the
Yeah.
country, like do you know what I mean, doing that. But yeah, she's been given a whole life order for seven murders of premature babies, injecting them with air, and I think that was her main method. But she did other things like choking them with a bottle of milk,
Wow.
and like apparently physically punching them as well, like just beating them up, and just clearly potty in the head, and certainly pottier than us. But
Yeah.
yeah, and the attempted murder of six. But there was some news a couple of weeks ago that she might be getting done for even more
Mm.
deaths, because now the police are looking back into every baby that's ever been under her care in
Yeah.
her whole career, and she ain't getting out. And in my opinion, I don't think she'll even die. She'll get
No.
ironed out, because if you're a woman, because women are naturally very, especially in women's prisons, a lot of women, they have kids that,
Yeah.
either they're not going to see in 10 years, 5 years, or even forever. So they don't want to be, no one wants to be locked up with a baby killer. But with
Mm.
women, it aggravates them more because of the natural maternal nature of women. But
Uh-huh.
if you're serving a whole life order and Lucy Letby's on the wing, and you'll line her out for a few packs of noodles. Do you know what I mean? And you'll
Yeah.
do whatever it is in the in the nutmeg, in the seg, and then you'll come out. And yeah, what is it to someone who's got a whole life sentence already? Yeah, you don't want to share a room with her, which you would. She'll
Huh.
get ironed out. Simple as that. But
Yeah.
it'll hit the news one day that she's been done in. I don't worry about that for a second.
Huh. Yeah, it's interesting. I heard two of her victims were triplets, and she tried to kill all three, but the one
Yeah,
survived.
yeah, and they were all identical as well. So, and the odds of that happening are something ridiculous, like 200 million to one. Like like identical triplets, you don't see them basically. The unicorn rare. And
Hmm.
yeah, she had a thing apparently for like identical triplets, identical twins as well.
Oh,
And but the main thing, because the main piece of evidence in that case that everyone knows is the green. She had a thing with like writing notes, to
oh,
herself, and keeping them like little post-it notes and all that. And
uh-huh.
but her notes, like she was clearly guilty, like she clearly felt guilty, writing things like "I am evil, I did this, I don't deserve to live." And I went,
Yeah.
"Well, that's not a psychopath." I thought if
No.
I was in her shoes, I would never even think that, let alone write it. But
Yeah.
so she's clearly not. She can't claim ASPD. She can't, because she clearly felt guilty. But she was writing things like, "Why me? Why do I have to do this?" As if like some sort of external force or being or something was controlling her to do it. So maybe there was a compulsion there. That, I mean, there must have been, surely. You know. Um, But yeah, absolutely, it was just madness. But I remember when the news came out, and like people were writing things on Facebook like, I'm crying reading this, and oh, this is making me so angry and sad." And but like with me, it was just like I read it and I thought, "Oh yeah, mongrel," and then that was it. I just go back to what I'm doing, and
Hmm.
do you know what I mean? Again, it's like that being in that glass box. Those
Hmm.
feelings just bounce off, and you don't get them like everyone else.
Yeah.
But obviously, like do you know what I mean? Absolutely, you don't have to be an empath to know that she's vile. Do you know what I mean? But
Right. Well, you don't have to have a feeling, an emotional reaction about it too. You can just be like,
yeah,
that's wrong.
yeah, it's cognitive with us. It's
Hmm.
just in the brain. It's not in the heart.
Yeah.
But but I was thinking, I actually thought, because I like thinking of funny little sayings, and I thought thought of one not long ago, and I thought, oh, it's kind of good that I don't have a soul, because then I don't have a soul that I can sell to the devil. Do you know what I mean? And
Mhm.
but yeah, but that I just read that, and I thought that's the one thing I thought. I thought, why? Like, if you want to feel real power, you go for someone that's bigger than you. Like, I remember one time I just turned 18, and that's the legal like age limit here for most things, like alcohol, driving, pornography, just about everything really. And I
Mhm.
was walking past a pub, and I'd been for a pint in the pub before with my dad, like when I'm 14, 15,
Mhm.
Jack the lad, do you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
but I never had my first legal drink. And I went, do you know what? I'm going to go in this. I said, I'll go for me first. I was walking back from my mates, and I just walked past this pub, and I went, do you know what? I'll draw out 20 quid. I'll pull a bobby out, and I'll go I'll get a pint. Just, because I can, because I'm 18 now and I can
Yeah.
do it.
Mhm.
And then within about 10 minutes, 10, no, not even 10 minutes of being in this like rough pub, or people would say it's rough, do you know what I mean? It's known for, a bit of aggro. And
Mhm.
it's like the big, yeah, I wasn't working out at the time. I was built like a lead pencil. And this like big stocky fella comes up to me and like starts having a problem with me. And he was like a local, like a known gangster, and
Uh-huh.
drug dealer. Do you know what I mean? He was,
Yeah.
he was a unit. Do you know what I mean? And he was going like, oh, he started shaking my hand, but then he just changed and he started kicking off. And I think a normal person would like, try and maybe calm him down or something like that. But I just stood there, just drinking my pint and going, go on, then hit me. Knowing full well that he could iron me out. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I was just ready. I thought, if he makes one wrong move, I'm just going to put this over his head and run out the door. But I was never, I, I wasn't heightened by it, if that makes sense. And he got kicked out, I think, eventually, or his mum dragged him out, I think. But he got sent out, and then the barmaid like said, "Oh, I'm going to talk to you in the back for a bit." And I thought, "What do you mean? What you want to talk to me for?" I thought, I haven't even, you know what I mean? I haven't started it. I'm just coming for a pint.
Yeah.
Got me in the back because he's a lot older than me, and she kept asking me like, "Are you all right? Are you all right?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm all right. He didn't do anything. He's just had a row. Said he's gonna, smash me head in." And his mum's, dragged him out and taped him off in a taxi. And she was going, all right. She kept asking me, "Are you all right? Are you all right?" And I said, "Well, yeah, I am." I thought, I said, "Do I look stressed to you? Because I don't feel." I said, "You're annoying me now. You keep asking me I'm all right 5 or
Mm.
6 times." I said, "You're getting on my nerves." But I said, "I'm all, I said, I'm fine. Do I look like I'm quaking in my daisy roots, in my
Mhm.
boots? You know, but I just wasn't bothered. I thought, do me in then. It is what it is. Do you know what I mean? I've just never, I don't know, I've never had that heightened, I can get the adrenaline sort of thing, like the art's going, but I'm not, there's not this worry there. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Mhm.
And, but he was a mountain of a man. I'll never forget him. And he was going, oh, like, I'm a black belt and I'll do you in and all that. And it's like, and I'm a gangster. And I'd seen him around and I'd seen his face, do you know what I mean? And he
That's
was an
funny how he just keeps, like,
well, skinny,
listing
skinny.
more and
Yeah,
more ways. He's like, "I'm black belt. I'm gonna kick your ass. End this. End this." And he does nothing. And then his mom comes.
it just didn't. It didn't wash. It doesn't wash with me. That sort of stuff.
Uh-huh.
I just go, I'm gonna do your bit. You know what I mean? If you're gonna do it, do your business. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Show me what you're
exactly.
made of. Do your business. Do you know what I mean?
Mhm.
You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Don't stand there like a mug, like talking all like this, that, and the other. Just, let's have it. You know what I mean? And I'm always very observational. So like if I ever go out to a pub, which I never do, but whenever I have done, I'll get a glass of water, but I won't drink from it. That glass of water is just to, put over someone if it kicks off. Do you know what I mean? When I'm going, oh, like, is the furniture screwed to the floor? Where's the doors and all that? You know what I mean? I'm tactical. Again, it's that high neuroticism. Do you know what I mean? I'm always planning for it to kick off. Like, I'm always ready. I'm ready for it. Do you know what I mean? I'm on. Do you know what I mean? And
Mhm.
yeah, you have to be around here to a degree. That is partly a lot to do with the environment, I'd say. But yeah, it's just, no, it's just, it never, I'll never forget it. I'm not kidding you, skinny, you know what I mean? I was all, you know, I was on bits and pieces. So, you know, you used to be able to see all my ribs and everything. He could have bent me up, like, do you know what I mean? He really, you know, he didn't even have to say anything. He could have just come up to me and bent me up and not said a word, but he's just giving it large. And I thought, you know what, do it then. It is what it is. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? You know, lo and behold,
It
he never,
is what it is.
you
But it
like
is
that
true
expression,
in
don't
these
you?
situations because I'm like, you know, they say like anxiety or fear or something. I don't know what they actually say about it, but it's the fear of things that may or may not happen. And I think the nice thing about just not fearing that stuff is I'm the same way. It'd be like, you know, okay, so if I do get into a fight, then you know there will be these things that will happen to my face maybe. And then I'm already thinking like, okay, schedule the dentist to get the teeth replaced, you know,
Yeah,
schedule
do you know what? That's the only thing that I don't wanna, I do not want my face ruined, because
Mm.
I've been told, like, you know, like my whole life, like from my mother's, you know, my mum and her friends, but like even like, you know, girls as well as I've got older, I've been told that I'm very handsome, and I wanna keep this. Do you know what I mean? You know what I mean?
It's useful, you
Yeah,
obviously.
yeah, you know, I've got, you know, I've got that little charm, you know what I mean? I've got my good looks and I wanna keep them, but,
Uh-huh.
I've never been afraid of a weigh-in. If I, do you know what? You know, I remember like one time, this lad in school, he's coming up to me, and you know, he's making fun of my name and this, that, and the other. And it goes on for a couple of weeks, and you know, I turn around and go, you know, pack it in or I'll sort you out and all that. And then he walks away, him and his mates, and have a laugh. But then one day he took it too far. I've been talking to a mate, I'm talking to you now, and then he's crumbled like a biscuit. 'Cause, you know, in the school, you go to the canteen and get food. I felt something in my hair, and I thought it was rain. And then I
Mm,
turned around, and he was a couple of years younger than me, but again,
mm,
he was a unit. Do you know what I mean? He was massive, so he
yeah.
thought he could, you know, he thought he could take a liberty on me, couldn't he? And so this big kid, he's crumbling a biscuit in my hair, and the way he looked me dead in the eyes, and he just grinned. It just set me off. I just turned around and I've gone and boom, I've just gone and volleyed him, and then he's gone like way back, and so I grabbed him by the shirt collar like there with my left hand because I'm right-handed, and then I've just volleyed him again and I've volleyed him again, and I'm just like walking him around because I've got a, you know, even before I worked out, I've got a hell of a right hook on me, got a
Mm,
hell of a right hook, and I've, you know, crafted it over the years, so to speak. And I've just done it. I'm just doing them again and I'm doing them again. And then a couple of my mates tried to pull me off. And then I turned around and said, "You fuck off, or I'll fucking do you next." You know what I mean? And so they were the two identical twins they were, and they both went back and was like, "Wow, you know what I mean? He'll do us in. And, you know, he means it." I
mm,
just set off this again. It was like the grey rage, but like the red rage. Do you know what I mean? And
yeah.
I've just turned around, and by this time the kids are all, you know, he's got snot coming down his gob, and you know what I mean? He's crying and you know, he's all red and starting to lump up a bit. So I'm just weighing him in, and I'm weighing him in. I'm going, you're dead and all that. And I've got him, and I'm about to like headbutt him, and I throw my head back. But as I throw my head back, a pair of arms come around me, and it's like the head of the head of the year group in school, and they've
Mm,
dragged me off, and then a teacher's come along and got him and all that. But yeah, I had a few moments like that in school. That was like one of the more serious beatings. But even just times where I've just like someone's done something and I've just gone like and you know
mm,
socked them one. I've gone fuck off. You know what I mean? Pack it in. And in fact, there was one. I think like a kid in my year. He just come up to me and elbowed me in the face for no reason. And I just, it was a Joe, it was a decent elbow as well, because I just looked, I had Ted, and I looked at him and bang, and he's elbowed me.
mm,
And then he's walked away laughing, and I just stood. It didn't. He elbowed me, but it didn't move me, if you get what I mean. So I've
mhm,
just stood there, and I've gone bang, and I've just done him, and the thud. There was like a group of us, and not everyone was like looking in our direction, but like everyone turned around and went, "Ooh!" He just held his head in both hands, and he started to wobble, and he was like looking because there were these benches there, and he's looking for a bench to sit down, and he was going, "Oh, I'm going to be sick. I'm going to be sick." Like it nearly knocked him physically like sick. And he's going, "I'm
Wow.
going to be sick." And his little, and this is, because I'm sure I'm pretty sadistic as well when I want to be. And he had like a little mate that come up to him and like tried to put his arm around him to comfort him. And I went, "Fuck off." I went, "Get away from him now." I said, "He can suffer on his own." I said, "Get away and go to the class and fuck off." And the lad moved and just left his mate on his own. And I said, I went, "You're mug, mate," you know what I mean? So don't ever touch me again. Do you know what I mean? I'm not kidding you. It's nasty little school that was. Kid just called, you just literally, we stood there 1 minute, and the next thing you know, elbow straight to the face. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, he didn't do it again. But well, the more I'd say, do you know what the more sadistic one was I was in the do you know, because it's a Catholic school and they have it's an in-school exclusion base. Like if you're so naughty in class, you get sent to the exclusion base, and
Okay.
it's called it's named after Sir Francis of Assisi.
Mm,
And so I'm in the exclusion base, and there's a lad in my year who I know who's in there, and you're not supposed to talk really in there. So I whisper, I go, kind of a joke a bit like this. I said, "What you in for, mate?" And he said, "Oh, there was a girl that I fancied in the year who was dead athletic, and she had a broken leg, and I'd been speaking to her, and she's on crutches and everything." And I said, "What you in for?" And he went, "Oh," he said, I've kicked Rebecca in a broken leg." And just, yeah, kicked the girl I mean, she was bandaged up and everything. I didn't, but he told me, so I've kicked Rebecca in a broken leg, and he must have not been aware that I was into her. And I leaned into his face, and I just whispered, looked him dead in the eyes, and I whispered to him, I went, "You get out of here, you're fucking dead." And his face just dropped. He just absolutely, the colour just went from him, and he was trying to like go back to what he was doing, but he couldn't. And then I just walked away, and I left it, and then throwing bits of paper at him from behind, and going, you know what I mean, getting me mate to go and get more paper from the paper tray so I could bully him some more. And then when we got out of the Assisi Centre, because he was a massive kid, he was like 7 foot tall, do you know what I mean? But I thought, well,
mhm.
he kicks girls with broken legs. He's not that big, is he? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I ran up and like I've dived on him, but a bit in a way, like you've seen like these romance movies where like a girl like wraps her legs around the guy that she loves,
Yeah.
like that. Like I've just
Mhm.
ran up and I've like wrapped my legs around him. I've just started weighing him in and weighing him in and weighing him in, and his glasses come off, and he just stood there crying, and you know what I mean. He just got weighed in, but it's a hell of an environment to go up around here. But I always just, you just adapt. Do you know what I mean? And but yeah, that was school. It was just aggravation constantly, and it got more and more and more. And then I left. But yeah, that was school.
It's interesting that you waited, you like kept kind of bullying him, but you waited to, it's not like you had like red rage where you wanted to beat him up right there. You waited until you had both left the.
Yeah, it wasn't any feeling there. It was just like, because I like the girl, you've gone and kicked her in a broken leg, so it's more of it was more like a moral obligation to me, if that makes
Mhm.
sense.
Yeah.
Or like just it's sort of like exacting justice, or my sense of justice. Thought, well, you're going to get done in for that now, and you know what I mean. And
Mhm.
I'm going to make you wait for it as well. And I see his face drop when he see me on the yard.
When he saw you coming, did he see you coming or did you get him from
Yeah, yeah,
behind?
yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I wasn't going to. No, I'm not going to. I've never been the type to like come from behind. Do you know what I
Mhm.
mean? Or
Yeah.
but or no. In fact, I did once. It was with my dad. Um, he was having a go at my mum, and he done it, all through when we were kids, because he's like a high function, he's an alcoholic, and my mum's, again kicking him out the house, and they're having a row. But this time he was just getting too aggressive, and I just went, and again, that wasn't even really, there wasn't really any rage in me. But I just thought, I'm just gonna have to weigh him in. Like, it is what it is. Do you know what I mean? Like, you've got to go get the paper in the morning. You've got to weigh him in. It is what it is.
Mhm.
And he had me mum backed into a corner, and then because he was facing away from me, I just went up behind him and I punched him. I didn't mean to knock him out, and it
Mm.
didn't feel like that hard of a punch, but
Yeah.
he fell into this. We had this big plant that my mum had for like 10 years, and he just fell into this plant and there was soil everywhere. And I think my mum or my brother dragged me off him because
Mm.
I'd have kept going, but that's the only time that I can remember anyway, coming up to someone from behind. And remember he told me like 2 weeks later, he said, "I thought you hit me with a hammer." And I went, "No." I said, "No," I said, "I didn't even think I hit you that hard, but you went." He just fell down, like his legs just went to jelly like a newborn giraffe.
Mhm.
And that's the only time I've hit him from behind. And then
Mm.
I actually had another time where, what did he do? He, that's it. He went round to my kid's house when he'd had a drink, and I won't have it near my kid. Do you know what I mean?
Mhm.
And it was in my flat here, and because I didn't, I thought, I'm gonna go around and have him for that, because I thought, I'm not having that. That is taking a liberty,
Mm.
because he's not a nice drunk. Do you know what I
Mm.
mean? And I went, I'm not having that. And it was my kid's mother who called me.
Yeah.
She said, "Oh, your dad was here. Said he was in the right state and he'd been drinking." And she said, "Your kid was here as well." And it did that, like, that set off a rage within me. I fumed in here for a bit, and then I've called my mate up and I've said, "Well, you said, where are you now? Are you in work?" And you've gone, "Yeah, yeah, yeah." I said, "Well, when you're done with work, bring the car around and don't tell anyone you're coming." And so she goes, "Right, okay, okay." So she comes around in the car, picks me up in the car, and then I go over, and because I've got the keys to his flat, so I don't need it to get me in. So I just bring the
Uh-huh.
keys and just let myself in, and then I look around, and he's got like a dimmer light,
Mhm.
and he's passed out on the sofa, bottles of wine, and I just started like dimming the light, to wake him up a little bit. And then trying to get him up, and I thought, well, I'll try and talk some sense into him and tell him what he's done wrong. And then after about a few seconds, I just got sick of it, and I just went boom, and it hit him. He was stood up as well, and he went like, like, like a bit like a cartoon character, like his head just suddenly jerked back, and then he's fallen like backwards, but to his right, and then that part of his head there was just bounced off the radiator that's mounted to the wall, and then he's just
Okay.
gone and hit the deck. I just walked out, and then I went home and ate my dinner. But I thought, well, he's had it coming. You don't drink round. You don't drink round my kid. I'd have done it to anyone. Do you know what I mean? It just happened to be my dad. It is what it is.
Yeah. Yeah, it is what it is. A good kind of theme to our chat. So we've been talking about a bunch of things. We've been talking for a while now, and maybe now is like a good time to kind of wrap up for now, and then maybe we'll have you back on. But do you have like any sort of closing thoughts?
Closing thoughts. Do you know what I'd say? I'd say again, if you, whatever it is, whether it's ASPD, MPD, boom, 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 this, that, and the other. People now that they self-diagnose themselves too easily. Do you know what I
Mm.
mean? They'll read one or two things and then that's it. They don't want to know anymore. But if you're going to self-diagnose, if you think that you've got something, I wouldn't say wrong with you, but if you think you've got something, then you know go your doctor. But if you want to self-diagnose, you really need to spend weeks at least researching what it is, and getting the other doctors' advice. Like I said, we've got a whole world of information in our pockets now, and people just aren't really willing to use it. And you know what I mean? And learn. You can become self-educated on these things, and the chances are it probably won't be like mine, where I've got, oh yeah, I found it out more or less right away and then confirmed it gradually. But you've just got to try and fight against yourself. Try and keep proving yourself wrong. And and it's when you can't prove yourself wrong that then you'll be you'll be onto something like I was.
Yeah.
And the big one with me was music. I thought because I like music. Do
Mhm.
you know what I mean? Like music's great. And I remember being asked in one of my psychological assessments. She said, "Oh, why do you like music?" And I said, "Well, I just like the sounds. I like the sound. I like the sound of music." And I thought it's as simple as that. But when I was looking into this, it turns out that most people they like music because of the way it makes them like feel.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, yeah, I'm like, well, yeah, that's definitely not me. And but when reading like diagnosed psychopaths answers for it, they they all describe liking music for the reasons that I like music, or like the reasons for liking comedy, the same reasons that I like comedy, and so on and so forth. And that was how uh, that was how I found out about myself. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's interesting, I think, to close as well. A lot of people say because ASPD is, I think there's two kinds. I think you've got clinical psychopathy, which is where you're born with the shrunken amygdala, the limited activity in the orbit, like when you're born with that brain, like
Mhm.
Dr. James Fallon is the
Yeah.
perfect example for that. But then you've got clinical psychopathy, and then you've got ASPD, and ASPD is on a spectrum from sociopathy to psychopathy.
Mm.
But so you can have, I think there's two types of psychopath, where
Mm.
there's clinical, where you're born with it, and then there's non-clinical, which is ASPD, which is developed through the younger years. But I was watching yesterday to prepare for this as well, Dr. Omani, and she
Mhm.
said, "Oh, there's a big difference between psychopaths and sociopaths." And she said, "Psychopaths are born and sociopaths are made." And I went,
Hmm.
"Well, you haven't distinguished really a difference in the condition itself. You've just distinguished the origins."
Yeah.
I often think, to be honest, sociopath is just maybe a slightly different type of psychopath.
Hmm.
But and again, it depends on the person. It's on a spectrum. I'd say on a severity scale, I just use the word psychopath personally because it's for ease of conversation. It's the word most people know. And a lot of
Yeah.
people you say sociopath and they go, "Oh, isn't that like a psychopath?" It's just easier to use. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
For speech's sake. But I'd say I'm about scale of 1 to 10, 10 being a loony. For society's perception of a loony, I'd say about a 5. Maybe or maybe I'm not that self-aware yet. Who knows? Maybe over the years that'll change. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, I'd say I have my moments. Do you know what I mean? I often definitely have my moments. But, any closing remarks from yourself? I know I've been quite I tend to dominate the conversation, and
No, it's
I'm
been
quite
really interesting, and it's interesting too because you know, this is why I kind of suggest like talk to you like in the future too. Have you come back on whenever you'd like. But
yeah, happy to.
yeah, you've recently discovered this thing, and so it's interesting to hear your fresh thoughts on it. Whereas, a lot of people I talk to or something, they've known about it for like a decade, or they don't know about it yet. Or so it's always just interesting to kind of talk to people where they are in terms of
Yeah,
like
yeah.
awareness. Yeah.
Now you've got a newbie,
Uh-huh.
but yeah, yeah, it'll be maybe I should. I was thinking actually I should start maybe a journal and record my thoughts on certain things, but like have journals over the span of like 10 years at least, and see how I change my view on certain things, or maybe I'll deal with situations differently in the future. Maybe I'll get better, maybe I'll get worse.
Yeah,
For
that'd be awesome.
X, Y, and Z. But a journal definitely would be something to do. I do because I read the Bible every day when I'm
Good for
working
you.
out, like in between sets. Yeah, yeah. And I do try and be the best, Christian I can be. Do you know what I mean? I'm not perfect, and that's why I want to be saved by the grace of God. I accept Jesus Christ. I know He died for my sins and everybody's. And so I read my Bible every day. and I read a chapter of the old and a chapter of the new, and anything that I underline, I write down in a pad, and I've got it up there. I'm up to this book of Samuel in the Old Testament. Yeah, some people like I like going out in public and like seeing people's reactions, and they go, oh, they go, what, you go to church every Sunday? And I go, well, why can't
Mm,
I? you
yeah.
know, do you know, do you know what I
Good
mean?
for you.
And challenging their, like, challenging their perceptions, and I sometimes say what they're uncomfortable with. But I do like talking to people. But again, friends, I don't believe in friends as a concept. I just don't. I really, but as a kid, yeah, I guess I do think that friends are for kids. So when you're a kid, you have friends, but like as an adult, like, I don't know, maybe it's different because again the gender dynamic. But like, I think as a man, like, you know people, not friends.
Well, it's been really great chatting you, and
Like,
again, love to have you on in the future. Really appreciate you coming and talking and being so honest with me.
mm, yeah, I am brutally honest. I'd say that, but obviously I can effectively lie whenever it suits me. But I'm not like, I definitely wouldn't say I'm a pathological liar. But yeah, I've, I've been told I'm a good storyteller. But
Well,
yeah,
thank you
thank you.
for telling the stories honestly and interestingly today.
Yeah, no, pleased to do it. Thank you for having me on as well. Like I said, I'm happy to come back on in the future, and yeah, we'll see what the future has in store. But it's been a pleasure. I'll bring your book to work with me. I'll keep reading it, and
Mhm.
also see it through to the end. And yeah, it's been a pleasure. Thanks very much.
All right. Chat you soon.